Down to the Wire. I'm Carter Adams.
I'm Brian Costa.
And we got a lot for you guys tonight. So
before we dive into all stories so far, we're also going to be doing a little watch along with the Raptors and Celtics game. It's currently 52-48 at halftime with the Celtics up by 4. Jalen Brown is leading the way for the Celts, and Kyle Lowry is doing his part for the Raptors. He is 15. Brown is 21. So as the game starts to get going, we'll be watching. We'll be giving you guys updates on that game as it starts to get going a little more. But so far it's still halftime. They're looking to get back soon, but I think they're starting to play up right now. So we'll give you some updates when some big swings happen in the game.
Yeah, we're looking to give you guys a little more of a casual show tonight. So stay tuned. We got a lot in store.
Yeah.
And all we can hope for right now is that the Celtics do not let this series get evened up again. So
yeah, that's the last thing we need to happen in the series. I'm just going to try to move this over real quick before we talk about more stuff going on. Oh, some technical difficulties. Some technical difficulties. My apologies. And all right, we're good now. So, yeah, Boston was up 2-0 in the series, and then just unfortunately let it slip back. They ended up, being the better team in Game 5, just absolutely demolishing them. But the Raptors, I mean, they've proven that they have a lot of resilience. They're a very resilient team, and I mean, right now they're now within a point of the Celtics in this game, so it's definitely going to get very interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, Marc Gasol finally decided to get a haircut too.
Yeah,
but yeah, what do we got?
All right, so to start off, we're actually going to talk about something about a sport that we typically don't talk about on this show. But I decided it was an interesting enough topic, so I wanted to kind of bring it up. So in the tennis world,
that's not something you hear
on Down to the Wire too
often.
much.
Yeah, Down to the Wire.
So I kind of decided there's kind of a situation going on in the tennis world right now. At the U.S. Open, number 1 seed Novak Djokovic was disqualified after he hit a line judge with a ball. He didn't even realize what he did, but basically. If you search up the clip, he basically kind of unknowingly just kind of threw the ball up in the air and hit it back with the racket, and the ball just traveled back and ended up hitting some line judge lady right in the throat, and it was just devastating. And he's basically been thrown out of the U.S. Open. He was the number 1 seed. I don't know what that does if Vegas has like odds and something like that, but definitely a big upset to see a guy like that out of the
for something so like controllable too.
I know. I mean, he's the type of guy that is a professional. Like you expect these guys to control their anger, but unfortunately, it just doesn't happen sometimes for them. And this is an instance of someone's.
It almost didn't even really look like he was angry.
Yeah, it almost just was like a moment of him just kind of doing what he was doing, and not realizing the consequences for what would happen.
And that ball going that fast right at the throat, that's gotta hurt.
That's gonna leave a mark.
I don't know if disqualification was really necessary. I don't know if I would have disqualified the dude, but I can see why.
Yeah, and then Djokovic also took to Twitter on September 6th saying, "The whole situation has left me really sad and empty. I checked out the lines person, and the tournament told me and the tournament told me, thank God, she is feeling okay. I'm extremely sorry to have caused such stress. So unintended, so sorry." So he seems pretty apologetic about it. Obviously, I don't think he meant any harm to the person, but as a professional athlete, you do have to find a way to control yourself in a better way than that, especially a sport like tennis where it's just so like singular in that way. You're the only guy representing yourself. It's not like part of a team thing where it can be blamed on the upper management of a team where it's like, hey, this head coach let his guy get out of like his and have a personal overreaction.
Completely agree.
It's on you.
Looking at both sides, I mean, if you're a line judge in this situation, should you have been more ready for this type of circumstance to potentially happen? I mean,
it is your line of work, that's for sure. But I mean, at the same time, I don't think anyone expects to take a tennis ball to the throat from just like from one of the best in the world. I mean, people probably expect that these guys are probably going to be avoiding the balls getting by them. So probably expecting one to be coming at your jugular is probably the last thing you expect.
Definitely.
Yeah. So that's something I just want to open up with tonight. I mean, I know we don't talk about that too much on the show, but I thought it'd be a fairly interesting thing to talk about. in the NBA, we're watching the Boston Celtics right now, trying to see that if they can pull off the win tonight. I think it was Pascal Siakam just missed a free throw, and Celtics are currently up by 1, but if they can manage to pull this off tonight, they'll end up going to the Eastern Conference Finals, facing the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler.
The Miami Heat.
So
what a surprise to everybody.
I know that is.
I mean, not really a surprise when Milwaukee's down 3-0.
Oh yeah,
but still a surprise to win the series.
Absolutely. I mean, the resiliency of a guy like Jimmy Butler is incredible.
It is incredible.
Like, that's incredible. I mean,
he's proving to everyone that Miami is the place that he belongs right now.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, a lot of people have looked at Butler and have seen him as maybe like a 2 or 3 option, but he has, really established himself as a centerpiece down in that Miami franchise. Where a lot of people saw him in Philly and they were like, well, he's just a piece of the process and he's just another cog in the machine of Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and then it was like, all right, Jimmy Butler, and it was like, all right, well, we're going to see what that team can do. He goes to Miami. He's relatively by himself with, a bunch of younger guys and, some vets down there. But for the most part, it was his team, and he thrived in that situation.
Definitely. And you look at Jimmy Butler in Philly, and you almost see potential super team coming together.
Definitely.
In a way.
And then, he just kind of blew it up in a way by just leaving and saying, I want to do my own thing. And, he's on the Miami Heat right now, and he's killing it.
And this is why people viewed him as a big part of the issue in a place like Minnesota.
Yeah.
Because Jimmy Butler is I wouldn't say toxic, but he's an independent player. I don't even want to call him selfish. He's got his own personality, and in Miami, he's left a lot of room to have his personality.
Yeah, definitely.
And you see quotes of him saying, "Oh, I'm going to take shots, and my teammates are going to be okay with it." And that's how it is, and everyone's okay with it. And look at it, the Miami Heat are in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah,
something's working.
Yeah. All right, just give me a second. I'm just gonna fix something with the noise going on here real quick. I'll be right back.
Celtics are currently up 62-58 in the third quarter.
All right, that should hopefully be a bit better. I just wanted to, there was just a window open. Wanted to fix that real quick. But yeah, like he said, Celtics are up currently. They're playing well. I mean, if it goes to the Miami Heat series, how many games do you think it's going to be? And who do you have winning out? I know we're biased Boston fans, but
so this is assuming if Boston wins this game tonight.
If Boston does win this game or wins the series in 7 or does whatever they can, what is your prediction in that series?
As much as I want to say, Celtics got it in the bag, the Miami Heat team is scary.
Definitely.
Very scary. I don't know. I think it could be a series. Definitely could push 6 or 7 games, but as a final prediction, I'd have to stick with my Celtics taking the series.
I completely agree.
Celtics in 6.
Yeah, definitely
6.
I mean, it's definitely a. I think that the Celtics are kind of built for this bubble environment. I think that they could definitely thrive down there, but it's definitely going to be a tough. It's definitely going to be a tough road facing a guy like Jimmy Butler, who is so determined right now. He's considered this to be he's considered this whole trip to the bubble to be a business trip. Hasn't invited his family down. Is really just focused and hoping that he can really just clutch out a title for the Miami Heat.
Definitely.
So, I mean, if the Celtics can stay the course and remain strong like they have this entire time, then I think good things can happen for them. But it's just a matter of do they have the mental toughness to withstand a team led by a guy like Jimmy Butler who demands so much of his teammates.
I saw a cool stat earlier. The Miami Heat or Andre Iguodala have been in the finals the past 9 seasons. This season is the first season that the Heat and Andre Iguodala could potentially be in the finals together.
That's
Andre
wild.
Iguodala's on the Heat.
That is wild. Yeah.
We'll see. That doesn't mean I want the Heat to win the series.
Yeah, and I mean Andre Iguodala, isn't exactly the player he was. Wasn't exactly the player he was at the Warriors at this point in his career. Still a great vet to have on a team like that. But
not a name you hear a lot anymore.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Especially after all the drama that happened earlier in the season.
Definitely. Speaking of the Miami Heat and all that stuff that happened. The team that they eliminated, the number 1 seed Milwaukee Bucks, probably the MVP, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. What do you think about? Where do you think? What do you think the future of the Bucks is looking like? And do you think that Giannis will, try to run it back at least one more year with the Bucks?
I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's too loyal to the city of Milwaukee.
Yeah.
To go anywhere, but
do you mean by demanding a trade or signing in somewhere in free agency?
No, I mean he's not leaving Milwaukee.
You don't think so?
No, he's not leaving Milwaukee whatsoever. I think too much has happened off the court to sway him to leave, and I hate it though. I want Giannis to leave the Bucks because he has so much potential to do so many bigger things in other places.
Yeah,
but. I really think it's just going to be an endless cycle of coming up short in the playoffs if he stays in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if Giannis is sick of all the scapegoating that he's getting from all the drama going on in Milwaukee, I mean, the guy basically goes down in the game that would have been the sweep, and they ended up coming out with the win. But Game 5, it was Game 5. They didn't have him at all, and it was just a rout. So I mean. It's definitely an interesting situation because, I mean, if he does decide to go somewhere else, that really just shows you that this guy is gonna just do whatever it takes to get a ring. But if he stays in Milwaukee, I don't know. I mean, Miami. That was a Freudian slip right there. If he stays in Milwaukee, that really does show that, unlike Kevin Durant, unlike these guys, he is really locked in, dedicated to his team.
I really don't think he's the type of player to do anything for a ring. I think he's the type of player to stick it out.
And he might be the type of guy that you might have to rip the jersey, or at least the Bucks jersey, off his back before he ends up taking off to another team.
I think the Bucks would have to hurt him in some type of way to get him out of there.
Yeah, some sort of LeBron kind of type of way.
And they'd be stupid to hurt him in some type of way.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that it would be very, ill-advised for the Bucks to do something like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have a player on your team that you have of his caliber that you haven't had in a very long time. I mean, you've had some great guys come through that system, but a guy like Giannis is really special.
And we talk about guys that are good, but there are guys that are built different, and Giannis is one of those guys that is different.
Definitely.
And like I said, they'd be stupid.
I completely agree. It's definitely going to be tough to see, I mean, the Bucks, though, it was definitely tough to see them go down in that series, but how do you think they bounce back?
Well, I mean, I don't really think it was tough to see them go down in that series. I wanted them to go down in that series.
Oh, no, I know by that, but it was just, tough to, kind of just basically understand, that they, basically one of the best teams in the league, if not the best team in the league, was just, decimated, because of this bubble environment and just, by just this Miami Heat team that a lot of people were doubting,
I wouldn't even necessarily agree that it was the bubble. I think the Bucks have shown in the past, too, that they're not a playoff caliber team, and they're going to keep coming up short. I really don't think... I want to say there's a bright future for the Bucks, but Giannis has done nothing to prove to me that there's any sort of bright future if he's going to keep coming up short. It's my same argument with Phillip Rivers, and I won't get started on that.
maybe we'll end up coming back to that towards the end of the show. We'll get a little more into Phillip Rivers and your take on him. Let's jump over to the NFL real quick. All right. So I'm going to pull up something on my phone real quick, but if we go over to the NFL, we've talked about this in the past, but we talked about Madden, I think, maybe a week ago when we had our special guest Casey Cummins on the show. After he left, we talked about the hashtag NFL Drop EA movement, and there was just basically a mass movement among fans for EA to really step up their game and make it more realistic and make a better football product. Mm-hmm. And in terms of product, I mean, it's been essentially the same game since Madden 13, which was on last-gen consoles. It's made a lot of fans just really mad that the product, can't be better, especially, looking at what other titles have.
We were just talking about the Bucks. It just keeps coming up short.
I mean, even EA titles. I mean, you look at UFC, and there are plenty of EA titles where they seem to be really pushing the envelope and being able to
NHL, even FIFA.
Definitely. I mean, they seem that those franchises, at least in those games, they seem to be always trying to evolve each year, become a better game. But Madden just really seems like it's the same old game that it was.
Which it's very clear that EA has a firm grasp on how to make a good sports game, but that's not being portrayed in the Madden games.
Yeah.
And I think football fans are really upset, especially diehard Madden fans that have been playing their whole lives like me and you.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the big stories out of the Madden world recently is that quarterback Colin Kaepernick, who's been out of the league since 2016, has recently been added back into the game at an astonishing 81 overall. Now, I mean, Kaepernick, when he was at his apex, was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I mean, I remember when he led the 49ers to a Super Bowl. The guy was, electric. I mean, the guy was, on top of his game. But, ever since that season, he started to regress, like, a little bit, further back. I mean, when he lost to the Seahawks in the NFC Championship game the following year, the guy was still doing pretty well. But then he ended up losing Harbaugh to Michigan and just very slowly.
Yeah, a lot went downhill.
Yeah, a lot of cogs and pieces of that puzzle eventually just started, leaving for him. And really, he just didn't seem like the same guy. And it, I think it's quite possible that a lot of teams may have just figured him out, which is unfortunate. But that happens to a lot of guys in this league. But what the big story about Kaepernick right now is that he's been added back to Madden in 2021, and he is at an 81 overall. And
I'm gonna interrupt you for just a second.
All right, before we get back in, we're gonna have someone join the show real quick.
And there he is. There he is.
How's it going, guys?
What's up,
How's it going, Tyler? How are we doing?
Crew is back.
Doing good.
Sir.
It's good to have you on, Tyler.
It's good to be on.
Yeah, that's for sure. So we just wanted to reach out real quick and just say, how you doing right now?
Work is work.
Makes sense.
I got out, so
Yeah, makes sense. All right, so before the break, before we actually just had you on, we were talking about Madden 21 and how quarterback Colin Kaepernick has been reinserted back into the game nearly 4 years after the last installment he was in at an astonishing 81 overall. Your thoughts? I mean, on a guy. He's been out of the league for that long, and before I probably do get your thoughts and takes on it, these are some of the guys that are rated higher than him. And you're looking at guys like Rookie of the Year Kyler Murray, former MVP Cam Newton, and among other names. And maybe what we could do is when we could actually do a quick rundown. And we haven't obviously seen this guy play in 4 years, but what we could do is go back in your mind and think of this guy 4 years ago and try to see, do you think this guy is better than this guy now? All
All right.
So Colin Kaepernick is rated 81 overall. Would you say 4 years ago he is better than Ryan Tannehill today?
No.
Would you say Derek Carr of the now Las Vegas Raiders?
Derek Carr's tough, but I'm gonna have to say no again.
All right. Baker Mayfield.
Yes, 100%.
Baker Mayfield. All right. Cam Newton.
No.
Cam Newton is rated a 78 in Madden. Kaepernick is currently weighing in at an 81. All right.
Yeah, the Patriots are gonna have a great season with Cam.
Next on the list at a 77 overall, Kyler Murray.
No way. Kyler Murray is a stud.
Yeah. Also at a 77, the big man out of Buffalo, Josh Allen.
I think the fact that Josh Allen is a 77 in the first place is kind of disrespectful.
It is very disrespectful.
That's unreal.
Josh Allen's caliber rated that low. At 76 overall, Jared Goff.
That's a tough one because Jared Goff is really like a system QB, and
he was kind of a guy where, you look at a guy like Jared Goff, he's almost the type of guy that, I remember during their Super Bowl run, there were like rumors that basically McVay was just telling him who to pass to along in the play, and it was just like, hey, this is the play, but you're passing to Cooks here, and basically McVay almost was the quarterback of that team in a way.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give that one to Colin because I've never been impressed by Jared Goff ever.
And obviously we're talking about Colin 4 years ago. We're not talking about like now because we have no idea what this guy is now. For the majority of his career, he was a run heavy quarterback who was trying to learn to pass, but it was definitely not his strongest suit in the game. But when he was at his best, he was a pretty solid running quarterback.
Yeah. For sure. He did well in the Super Bowl, so.
Definitely. What made him... 1 second. Yeah, so what made him good was when he was at his best was probably his, just his size and the ability to run. Like at his build made him a pretty, is what made him a good, comfortable quarterback. The other one we can't really talk about right now is Joe Burrow, because right now Joe Burrow is really an unknown in the NFL.
But he's gonna be better.
You think so?
I know so.
Yeah. All right.
I know so.
1 second. We're just getting some talks about the mic issue, so we're just gonna try to get that a little bit into better range, just to try to make our sound a little better. Let's see. Would you say Teddy Bridgewater?
Teddy Bridgewater leaps and bounds is better. That man.
Well, Tyler, that's because you're a biased Vikings fan.
Injury withholding, he would have been the Vikings starter right now, guaranteed.
Right. So those are just a couple guys that we're talking about. I think that if Madden wants to reinsert him in the game, I think that's fine. But I think that if you're going to do it, you have to do it, at a more reasonable rating. Or if you're going to do it at an 81, I think some of these guys deserve to have higher ratings in the game. Because, some might say, an 81 is it's basically, when you look at it from a gaming standpoint, it's basically the benchmark for at least a solid QB to have in your franchise mode and whatnot. But if you're going to do that, I think Kyler Murray's got to get a boost, because he had an incredible season. I think some of these other guys got to get a boost. Especially for a guy who hasn't played in 4 years. It's not. If it was a Madden Ultimate Team type thing, and it's you're taking a guy and it's his 2012 stats, then sure.
Yeah.
But, I don't think that you can take a guy from 2020 who hasn't played in 4 years and just be well, he'd probably be this. I just don't think so. I don't think.
No, I agree. We haven't seen him play in, like you said, about 4 years now, and they're going to hand out an 81. And you can make the argument, we saw Joe Burrow play in college just last year. So, you're comparing last year's Joe Burrow and you're giving him a 77, and then you're taking 4 years ago, which you don't know if he's gone up or down. He could have gone either way.
It's more.
I don't think his game would probably be as sharp now.
Yeah, I could probably argue that. If you take a guy, for his style of play, I would say it's unlikely that his style would be improving. Unless he went to a ton, unless he really improved his passing. You look at a guy who improved his passing from a time that they were out of the NFL, and you might think of a guy like Michael Vick, who was a very run-present quarterback. It was basically all of his game. And then when he came back to the NFL on the Philadelphia Eagles, he had really kind of learned to pass better, and he was really able to utilize his stronger arm, and that almost kind of he basically became a new quarterback by doing that. So it's definitely going to be tough to.
I guess I'm just wondering how. I know he's in the game, but how is he in the game? He's not on a team. How are players going to be able to use him?
So in a franchise mode, basically right now he's currently a free agent. He's a free agent, and he's the highest rated free agent in that thing.
He's the highest rated free agent overall.
At least for quarterbacks is what I know.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's currently the highest rated free agent. It kind of reminds me of. I don't remember exactly when, but there was a 2K a couple years back whenever Allen Iverson. It was in his last year, but it was when he got released. And basically, what 2K did is he was basically, since he was released, he was a free agent because the Sixers released him so he could go into early retirement, but he was still in the game. But what a lot of players did is in their franchise modes, they would just kind of sign him because it's hey, he's a free agent, let's bring him in.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So I think for people that might be doing franchise modes, I feel that's probably how he'll be utilized for players playing that type of game mode. I really don't know how he'll be used anything beyond that. An 81 overall quarterback is solid, but if you have the ability in those modes to get a higher quarterback, I feel they'll probably end up doing that.
Yeah, and then here's another argument to that. If he is an 81 overall caliber talent, and he's better than these guys like Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, all those names you mentioned before, Derek Carr, why isn't he on those teams starting then?
Yeah.
Why is Derek Carr still out there? Why are the Bengals going in all in on Joe? If granted it's a Madden rating, but it's you're saying that this dude is better than some of these guys. Kyler Murray, who was the offensive rookie of the year, by the way.
Yeah.
So the stats clearly are adding up. is it clear to you guys that this is just a marketing scheme?
100%.
I mean, I know it's marketing. I mean, I know it's trying to get guys to buy the game. But I mean, I would think that Madden has seen a lot of scrutiny recently and about their game not being realistic and kind of being still kind of glitchy. You would think that if they're gonna do something and add a guy like this to the game, even if it's part of a marketing thing, that you think they want to give him maybe a more realistic rating to say, hey, we're trying to improve our product. That's where I stand with that personally, but it's a very interesting situation. I mean, if he's in the game, I really, if he's a solid quarterback in the game, and if players are able to utilize him, cool. But if it's really just going to be a matter of where it goes from there.
It seems to me like nobody's signing him in real life. So if Madden gives the players the ability to sign them in the game, more people are going to want to buy the game.
Yeah,
clearly,
definitely. So that's probably where we'll leave off with that. But let's transition over to another quarterback situation going on with the Chicago Bears, who recently, to some people surprised, to other people not so much surprised, they actually just named quarterback Mitchell Trubisky to be the starting quarterback over Nick Foles. Tyler, what do you think about that?
I mean, for me as a Vikings fan, that's great. That's a guaranteed 2 or 3 picks right into Harrison Smith's hands every time we play the Bears. But I think clearly what Mitch Trubisky has shown us ever since that one Pro Bowl season he had is that he's not a Pro Bowl player. And I think between him and Nick Foles, I think Nick Foles is the better option. Because, granted, Nick is inconsistent, but he also can have games where he can throw for 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Mitch hasn't had that explosiveness since that Pro Bowl season.
Since Thanksgiving against the Cowboys, actually.
Yeah. Very true.
So,
but yeah, good for us.
Yeah, I mean, for a Vikings fan, that's got to be a thrill. I mean, here's the thing: if Mitchell Trubisky can be what he was as a Pro Bowl quarterback, then the Bears are a solid team. But I really just don't see that coming from him. I think this is more the Bears really at this point, just saying, hey, we're just going to have the guy that we brought in. We're going to have him be the starter, and he's going to have to work himself out of a job, then have him work himself into a job. Because for a guy like that, it's definitely tough when if he's demoted in a way, and it's like, hey, you were the number whatever pick you were, but now we're gonna send you back and we're gonna make you a backup again. I feel like that's not gonna do well for his psyche. So I feel like in the Bears' mind, they're probably just going, listen, we just need this guy to if this guy feels like he's the guy, then maybe he'll be able to will something. But I think that by at some point in the season, Nick Foles will be starter. Even not barring injury. I think just pure talent wise, Nick Foles will be the starting quarterback.
I mean, I've always been a Mitch Trubisky fan. I like him. I like his personality. I like his play style.
They exist. Mitchell Trubisky fans exist.
Yeah, one's sitting right next to you, clearly. But I mean, Mitchell Trubisky, he's super inconsistent, like we were saying, and clearly we don't see what goes on in practice. As much as I want him to break that vicious cycle of coming up short and not proving himself, I don't think it's going to happen, and I'm going to have to agree with you guys that Nick Foles should be the starting quarterback.
Okay, I got something for you guys.
All right.
So, week 1, the Bears are playing the Lions. Do you guys think, I personally think by the second half, Nick Foles will be playing quarterback for the Chicago Bears by the second half of week 1?
That is a bold prediction, especially with the fact that they're playing the Detroit Lions. I mean, that's really the type of game. I mean, the Bears still have a pretty decent defense. I mean, they got Khalil Mack leading that thing. So I mean, if the defense can hold out and and the Bears can basically have any life on offense, I think Mitchell Trubisky can at least get through the first game, barring something just horrific. If his play is absolutely horrid, then they'll probably make the substitution, or if it's in crunch time, or
things have to go very wrong.
If it's garbage.
Yeah.
But usually I feel that
things have to go Nathan Peterman wrong.
Basically. However, I think he's probably safe for the first game, but come week 2 or 3, I think there could be some chatters about a switch. Let's see. So that's actually a pretty interesting take though, Tyler. But let's jump over to the West Coast where cornerback Jalen Ramsey basically just got the bag. I mean, he just got a massive contract
Highest paid
extension.
corner in the league now.
Yeah.
It was Tre'Davious White for about 3 days.
Probably.
And then
so it's now Jalen Ramsey. I mean, they acquired him from Jacksonville. I believe it was last year. Yeah, they acquired him last year. And he's just going to be making a ton of money to be staying out in Los Angeles. And I mean, good for the guy.
Good for the guy, not good for the Rams.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, look at this. The Rams have had already a history of overpaying guys that don't perform the amount of money they're giving them. Look at Jared Goff right now.
Exactly.
Look at Todd Gurley. Granted, an injury happened. You can't prepare for an injury when you're giving some guy a huge contract. But they made him the highest paid running back in the league, and he's on the Falcons now.
Falcons now, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you look.
Okay, so.
I mean, not only with that, but they're also apparently having money issues. I mean, I remember back when they were like trying not to pay Clay Matthews his contract, and he was getting really mad about that. So I mean,
look at Brandon Cooks too. Again, another injury thing. You can't plan for an injury, but they gave him a ton of money, and he just hasn't produced. Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, good for Jalen Ramsey. Probably not the greatest financial move for the Rams, especially with where they are money wise, but I mean, obviously I think Ramsey's gonna be pretty solid for the Rams. I mean, unless he like barring injuries to other parts of the team where he kind of becomes the sole guy, I think that he'll be in a pretty good place.
I mean, let's hope so.
Yeah.
The history may repeat itself in a way.
Yeah. I don't blame you. I don't blame you with that thinking. Also, some player news that was pretty big is that two players retired today, and one both have pretty big impact, but in slightly different ways. One of the players was Aqib Talib, great cornerback for many years. Won a Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos, made it to another with the Rams, and was also a great cornerback for the Patriots for a couple of years. Lockdown guy, really solid, but he just called it quits at the age of 34, and good for him on a good career, but because of the news I heard about him apparently saying that Bill Belichick gave him a call asking if he wanted to be a tight end stopper, I'm kind of sad that he couldn't have given it at least one more year.
It is sad. I mean, Aqib Talib definitely wouldn't have hurt.
Ooh, Marcus Smart took a big hit off the base of the basket in the game, but he seems okay right now. But that was a pretty hard hit. All right, but yeah, Aqib Talib, great cornerback, but it would have been great to see an addition like that in the Patriots secondary, but it really is it is what it is.
All right, can I blow your guys' minds with with a fantasy stat right now?
Go nuts.
So for the 2020 projected season in fantasy, the 8th overall ranked player is Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of LSU, the new running back for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, that's blowing my mind.
Can you guys believe that? He's projected to have 253.5 fantasy points this year.
Yeah, I mean the only thing that's just very surprising for me, especially for the fact that the Chiefs' offense is as pass heavy as it is. I mean, unless he's going to be like a James White type of guy for the Chiefs, where he's going to be kind of that check down back. I mean, I don't know how many times I see the Chiefs, taking the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands to have this guy get yards.
He's ranked over guys like Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill.
And I mean, here's the thing: that this guy could be, the guy. But at the same time, though, I feel like these fantasy projections aren't really, assessing the system that he's in. And you know what? Maybe he does come in and he can, he does get these points. But I think that the Chiefs are going to try to have the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands more times than not.
Yeah, and I'll give you, he was amazing at LSU. He was great that season, but the LSU was more of like, a kind of little bit of ground and pound some games, So, and the Chiefs system, you got Kelsey to throw you got Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins. So, it's not going to be in his hands that much.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So I mean, the whole Clyde Edwards-Helaire situation is so weird to me. I mean, great back in college. I mean, when kind of at the end of the first round of the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, he's another weapon in that offense, and I just think that people are rating him very high. And I mean, there's a chance that he is just a breakout star in the league, but I just don't see it right now. I just don't see it being like as crazy of a breakout as many people are seeing it. That's just me personally, but it very well could be that he is just a game changer for them.
And he's only ranked 0.4 points behind Derrick Henry, last year's rushing leader.
Which is crazy.
So that's giving him big shoes to fill right out of the gate.
Yeah. So the other retirement I wanted to get into real quick is actually much more unfortunate and sad. But Steelers linebacker Ryan Shazier, after just years of trying to battle back from that terrible hit that he suffered those years ago, has finally said that he's going to hang up the cleats, which is sad because I mean,
a shame.
You would have loved to see a comeback from that guy, but I mean, seeing the injury he had, the guy was partially paralyzed. I mean, I don't really think that it was going to go any other way. I don't think he was going to get back to the football field, but it's just sad. This day was going to come at some point, but it's just sad that he had to eventually realize that the hopes of getting back were pretty minuscule.
Yeah, and it's sad because he was recovering, but the worst part is it just wasn't at a quick enough rate to make him ready to play for the Steelers again, which is a shame, but, injuries happen.
I mean, when he was rolling, he was looking to get a really good, nice second contract extension. It was going to be something that was really going to cover him for the rest of his life. He was going to be living nice after that contract extension. But I think the Steelers are going to find a way to give him a good a good financial boost. I think that he's going to end up joining them in some sort of coaching role. I mean, the guy seems to have taken his rehab and all that stuff very, very well. He seems to be a great team player. And if he's coaching in some way in the NFL, I think that's a great thing for the NFL to have.
Yeah, and he was a great mind in the game too, so I think he'll definitely fit in well in the Steelers organization.
Yeah, I mean, if he's a linebackers coach, anything whatsoever, I think that the Steelers now. I mean, he's only 28 years old, so he has plenty of time to learn what it takes to be a coach in this league, and I think that that would be great for him personally.
For sure. And it would also be a morale booster too, for those guys to see him around, his former teammates, just to see him around in practice every day. It'd be a nice pick-me-up.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be like, hey, if this guy, he went through, absolute just torture of that rehab. I mean, if you go back and you watch that hit, he was just out on the field and he was you could tell he just wasn't there when after that hit. It was a very bad hit. But I mean, if they see him coming into that locker room every day, ready to help out the team in whatever in whatever way they can, I think that's a great morale booster for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I mean, that's going to be something that I think is a driving force for them for as long as some of those former teammates are still on the team and they see him entering the building. So, and then, another thing I wanted to talk about in the NFL really quick was, Adrian Peterson, was released from Washington and is now a member of the Detroit Lions, which we were talking about earlier.
It's a shame.
For a running back heavy team like the Lions, I mean, they already have some guys in that backfield. What do you think of this move, Carter?
Me?
Yeah, what do you think of
What do you think of,
AP to the Lions?
AP to the Lions, I mean, a cursed team like the Lions, it can't really hurt to have one more guy in that backfield. Adrian Peterson, obviously, is a very good running back, even though he's seen better days. At this point, he's kind of just being handed around different teams. Well, I don't think he'll have the biggest impact on the Lions. I don't think it'll hurt.
Yeah, that's for sure. Tyler, I mean, big Vikings.
He should be in purple and gold.
Saw AP for so many years in Minnesota. I mean, seeing him go to one of your bitter NFC North rivals. I mean,
the Saints of all places? The Saints.
I mean, yeah, he's a member of the Saints, the Cardinals for a little bit, Washington, and now he's a member of the Detroit Lions. That's got to be the kicker, if not the Saints. I mean, the Detroit
Yeah,
Lions
it's been a roller coaster ride, you know. Ever since, you know, he had that unfortunate incident with his child, his
Yeah.
career kind of went downhill in Minnesota. And I was really hoping after I saw he got released that we'd pick him up because he would be a perfect complement to Dalvin Cook. He could teach Cook some stuff, and maybe, you know, because Dalvin Cook is already a stud. He's probably the next AP. And you know, he could have been a bit of a mentor, a bit of just a guy to be like, hey man, just keep pounding through, look for those openings, look for those holes, and he would have been a nice compliment too. I think, no disrespect to Madison, but I think he's a better back than Madison, and he would have been a nice second option.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a guy like AP, and I mean, especially in that Minnesota locker room, like he definitely would have been a great addition to have with Kirk Cousins. I mean, as just a presence in that locker room. I mean, I don't really know what type of a locker room guy Kirk Cousins is. I mean, he seems when he gets fired up, he can really rally a team behind him. But I think if they had AP, you know, in that back, just not even in that backfield, but in that locker room, it would have been a great addition.
And I think the more the ball isn't being thrown by Kirk and handed off, the better the team is. So to have just maybe 3 instead of 2 good backs would have definitely helped our offense a lot. But
I mean, the guy still
we got Ngakwe, so
he's still got some career left, though. Do you think there's a possibility that he could retire in purple and gold?
I think that AP, you know, whether it's basically a ceremonial kind of like retirement where it's like, you know, where he signs a 1-day contract. I think something will happen where he retires with the Detroit Lions. I mean, not the Detroit Lions, the Minnesota Vikings. I think he'll do something like that.
I hope so. That would be a great ending.
I mean, he'll at least do something like that. I think. I mean, Minnesota was his home for years. I think that he'll definitely be, you know, with them in the end at some point. But I mean, Tyler, you were still calling AP a great back at this point. How much do you think he really has left in the tank, though?
Well, I think he's got 1, maybe 2 seasons left because, you know, he's a little on the other side. But you got to admit, he was a stud for Washington this year, and he was a good mentor for that young guy they had. And even he was talking about, you know, it's been great to coach him along. And I don't know if you guys saw the video, but it was like a 1 yard to the goal line, and he gave up. He was supposed to take it in, and he gave it up to the kid and said, hey man, go out there, get your first TD. And, you know, just stuff like that, veteran moves like that. I think it could help any team regardless. You don't need to put up 150 yards carrying every night to be a big impact on a team. Just being around and being that guy, you know, that's AP, that's AD, man. That guy around, that helps instantly.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, for a guy like AP, I mean, you know, when he does call it quits, obviously one of the best run backs to play the game. I mean, right now in Detroit, it's kind of fitting that he's only a couple yards out from chasing Barry Sanders on the rushing list. So I mean, you know, it's going to be interesting to see where he ends the season. But I mean, props to him on, you know, staying in the league this long. I mean, for most running backs, they're usually done at this point in their careers. So I mean, props off to, you know, one of the better backs, if not you know, the upper echelon backs in the league for staying in this long. Because I mean, you know, some of these guys, by the time they hit 30, sometimes they're out of the league. I mean, Barry Sanders was out of the league by 30. Calvin Johnson, I know he's a wide receiver, was out of the league at 29. So I mean, some of these guys can only sustain it for so long. I mean, the fact that he's been able to be, I think, 34, 35 now and still, you know, be a competent back really just says what type of an athlete he is.
Did you see the quote
Agreed.
from Kerryon Johnson asking if it was wrong if he took a picture with AP on the first day of practice with him?
Totally respect that. I mean,
Kerryon Johnson, who I met at work, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I will say that forever.
Yeah, I mean, totally respect it. I mean, you know, get a pick with him. I mean, for a guy that plays the same position as you, the guy's a mentor.
Yeah, he's probably a role model of some sort.
Definitely, I would say so. You know, let's jump over to baseball real quick before we end up, you know, going down the wire and discussing some more topics. Really quickly, you know, Hall of Famer and, you know, one of the all-time greats, Lou Brock, passed away at the age of 81. Brock was a Hall of Famer. He was a 6-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champion with the St. Louis Cardinals. He was the TSN Major League Player of the Year, and at the time of his retirement, he was 12th all time in hits, and he was the current stolen base leader. All time great. Was traded. Spent 4 years with the Chicago Cubs. Was traded for pitcher Ernie Broglio, and it's considered one of the most lopsided trades in MLB history. I mean, great player, Lou Brock. I mean, definitely, will be revered as one of the all-time greats forever. R.I.P. That's all I can say about that. Additionally, in MLB news, the New York Yankees are kind of in trouble right now. I don't know if you guys have been watching that, but they have lost their last 15 of 20 baseball games and are currently 500. Sitting at 21-21, and are barely holding on to that last place wild card spot. I mean, it's definitely a tough. It's definitely I'm thoroughly enjoying it as a Red Sox fan, even though they're out of it. But do you think that the Yankees, with the team that they have, will have enough to come back and maybe fight in for that last spot, or do you think that?
I mean, I hope not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Red Sox,
Good for them. I'm glad they suck.
Definitely. I mean, I hope that they just are scraping the bottom. I hope the Blue Jays just completely annihilate them again. Or whoever they're playing, whoever's playing.
And it's funny that you said Blue Jays because the Red Sox are not annihilating anyone this year.
Oh, definitely. I mean,
it's a shame.
It has been an all-time bad season for the Red Sox. I mean, they are currently in the hunt for the number 1 overall pick in the MLB draft. They're currently slated, if the season were to end today, have the number 1 overall pick in the MLB draft, which I'm thoroughly excited about. I mean, one of the guys that is being talked about right now is, I guess, right-handed pitcher Jack Leiter. Definitely would be a great pickup for the Sox. I mean, for a team that, has had to ship off a couple of their pitchers, getting a good young stud in like that would be real great for the team. All props off to Dave Dombrowski. Was great. I mean, for what he was with the Boston Red Sox, came in, shipped off like all of our prospects, and won us a World Series because of it. But I mean, we do need to rebuild the farm and stocking up.
Yeah, we're hurting now.
And stocking up with a great number 1 overall pick would be great for the team. So
yeah.
I mean, it's tough. I'm glad that it's not a 162 game season and only 60 games. I mean, thank God it's not that much of a torture kind of thing. But if I think that the Red Sox could look to bounce back in a big way that a lot of people probably wouldn't expect, but. I think that if they could get, Sale's going to be back, Erod's going to be back. I think Eovaldi will be solid. But I think that if these guys can bounce back in a big way, it's going to be a solid. I think the Red Sox could be very solid next year.
You're a very optimistic person with that, Brian.
Solid. I didn't say good or bad. I said solid. I said solid.
If we're going into the season with Nathan Eovaldi as our ace and still no Chris Sale, I don't think we have any hope.
Well, that's the thing. I'm talking about next year, where if
I agree. Even next year.
Yeah. I mean, Sale obviously has had injury problems, and Eovaldi, not Eovaldi. Erod was really solid, but obviously he has had injury problems now too. I mean, he's out for the year. I mean, they are, struggling to get to that finish line. I think that if, the pitching, if they can get some sort of pitching in the offseason, they can be a decent team next year, but they really need to get pitching. That's really where they're...
For sure, yeah. As usual, our bullpen is not good at all.
Yeah, the Red Sox bullpen, I don't think, they haven't had a good bullpen in a while. I mean, even when they won it in 2018, a lot of people talked about that bullpen stepping up, but before it did, that bullpen was not really that
terrible.
Impressive.
We haven't had a good bullpen since the era of Koji Uehara.
I'd be
the man.
I mean, they really haven't had a good competent bullpen where those guys can come in and at least 3 of them you could feel confident in. I mean, I don't know if there's 3 guys in the Red Sox bullpen. I don't know if there's 3 guys in the Red Sox starting rotation right now who I feel confident in. I mean, Zach Godley, Ryan Weber.
And they made another bonehead move by getting rid of Brandon Workman for picks. He was our most stable relief pitcher, and they just shipped him away. It's like he's been a rock for us forever, and now our bullpen just has no hope.
Field definitely left kind of a sour taste in my mouth. I wasn't a big fan of the Workman move, but at the same time, I mean, they probably saw the writing on the wall and were like, I'm pretty sure he was a free agent at the end of the year. So I think at that point it was just he's having a good year. We're not going anywhere. Let's get the best we can for him. I hate it when the Red Sox do that, but I know why teams do it. It's a business. I'm not a fan of that business and why they do it, but I mean it just unfortunately is what happens. Yeah. So that's basically what's going on in baseball right now. Tyler, do you have anything that you'd want to bring up?
Yeah, who's gonna win in our fantasy league? My bets are on me.
All right. Oh well, the draft hasn't happened yet, Tyler.
It's going. It doesn't need to happen. All right.
I think it does.
I have enough confidence in myself to go in there and say I'm going to wipe the floor with you guys.
All right, Carter. Well, you know what that means? That means you just slot him in the middle of the draft, so he can.
That means my first pick, Mitch Trubisky, is gonna have to pop off.
Oh man, I'm shocked you didn't go for Will Fuller as your first overall pick.
That's the second.
You know I'm a Will Fuller fan.
That's
too.
coming up second.
Yeah, that's a close second.
Yeah.
No, in actuality, though, I think you guys are both wrong. I think you're denying the fact that I will be the fantasy champ this year.
And that's a complete and utter lie, but you can go ahead and...
We've never done a fantasy league together, so how can we really know?
We don't need to. I know I'm going to beat everyone, so...
Right. Let's ask the question. Has everyone on this show won a fantasy league at one point in their life?
Yes.
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 You have, Tyler?
Okay. 2.
You've won 2. Wow.
I did.
I won 2 in the same year, Tyler. Get on that.
Well, I also started playing fantasy football last year, so...
Respect.
Eh.
My money's on Tyler now, I'm not going to lie.
Eh?
I mean, fantasy football is definitely going to be interesting. Football's got to be interesting. I mean, Kansas City will be kicking it off tomorrow. I mean, this has been one of the weirdest lead-ups to football ever. I mean, usually there's at least a hint of like hype behind the lead-up to football season. There's just been nothing leading up to this football season.
No. No preseason either.
Preseason really kind of screwed me up. I mean, there's been, you haven't been able to get a look at any of these guys. And tomorrow, football is back. That's the thing that's wild to me.
That's
football
nuts.
Is back. I feel like I'm just gonna walk in. I'm just gonna be like, oh, Thursday Night Football is just here. Okay. And I'm just gonna have to react to it. I mean, there won't be fans in the stands. There won't be any of this. I mean, there's been plenty of talk about what it's gonna be like when it all comes back. But I mean, but seeing it in action is really gonna be what the big test is. I mean, will the product be be as interesting as it is without the fans?
Yeah, and how will it do? Even if they look into pumping noise in, it's still a big outdoor stadium. And I mean, I'll say it. I haven't watched much of the MLB at all because it's just not the same. Even with the noise being pumped in and the fake fans, it's just not the same. Basketball, I feel, is the only one that can do it because it's in closed areas and it's really easy to get a lot of sound. And they do have a good amount of people there. You got all the bench guys who can provide reactions. They got all the virtual fans, and then they got everybody's families and kids there. They're all crowds.
Basketball's doing it the best. I agree.
They are.
It's very entertaining to watch.
Basketball is handling it very well down there. I mean, I wish that I hope that for the finals they do end up doing like home team courts and stuff like that because I think that would look really cool.
That would be cool.
I mean, even if they brought back like the old tradition that they used to do, like where they would put like the trophy in like the middle of the court over like the logo and stuff. That would look
like back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, like when the Celtics won it back.
Yeah, every time I watch those old Celtics highlights, I see that big trophy in the middle of the floor.
Yep.
I want to see it again.
It just looks really special. I mean,
and then at the end of the montage, KG, anything is possible.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's going to be, I mean, sports this year have just been, unprecedented. I mean, I hope that the NFL goes off without a hitch. I hope there isn't a shutdown. I mean, if they have to bubble the playoffs, so be it. But, whatever you can do to get this season underway, just let's hope for the best.
Agreed. Well,
right.
I hate to do this to you guys, but it looks like it's 8:55. It looks like we are down to the wire.
We are officially down to the wire, which means we're going to go through everything that, we're going to do a quick run through of everything we talked about before, we let off for the night. Tyler, I mean, I know you didn't get a chance to talk about this, but did you see the incidents going on with Novak Djokovic in the U.S. Open?
I did. That was hilarious, but I feel terrible for that person that just took the fastest tennis ball I've ever seen move in my life to the throat. That's awful.
Yeah.
He could have handled it 100 times better. I don't know. The way he went about it, he just kind of escaped and got out of there. And I read something that there was another guy who actually did something along the same lines. He hit someone in the eye, and he stayed. He comforted them, and he paid for their whole eye surgery to get everything
That's
fixed.
awesome.
So, yeah, it could have been handled a million times better. He kind of just ran out of the stadium and got in his car and drove away. So
Yeah. So then in NBA news, we were talking about the Celtics-Raptors series. It's really coming down to the wire in this game. Definitely, I mean, it's definitely a close one. Let me see what the score is.
We've been having some internet issues. We're gonna have to give you guys a score update.
Yeah. All right, but
the Heat almost swept, by the way, 4-1 over the Bucks.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we also talked about the future of Giannis. Will he or won't he be a Milwaukee Buck in the end? Carter thinks so. I think that I think he might just be done with all the hate going on and the scapegoat, and I think he might try to escape.
Boston's down 4 with about 4 minutes left in the fourth.
That's rough.
They're gonna win tonight. Mark my words.
All right, bold words. I mean, game 7, you don't want that because anything can happen in Game 7.
They're gonna win tonight. Don't worry about it.
All right. Then we also talked about Jimmy Butler just willing that team to the Eastern Conference Finals. In Madden, we talked about Cap being rated an 81 overall in his return to Madden after 4 years. We discussed some quarterbacks that are rated higher than him, and we said is it not appropriate for the player he was 4 years ago? Is he or is he not rated high? Is it respectful that he's rated higher than them? We talked about Mitch Trubisky getting the start over Nick Foles for the Chicago Bears. We discussed Jalen Ramsey getting a huge contract extension with the Rams. We talked about the retirements of both Ryan Shazier and Aqib Talib. And then we also talked about Adrian Peterson heading to the Lions. And then to basically end things off, we talked about our personal predictions for our fantasy football league,
which I will win.
I think all of us are kind of pig-headed and who's gonna take the W in that league, but we're gonna have to wait and see.
Oh, one more thing that we actually forgot to bring up tonight: Thunder's head coach Billy Donovan is deciding to part ways with the organization. So
yeah,
he will not be returning last season.
Very interesting move out of there, and I think we'll probably have to pick up on that on Friday.
Definitely.
But it is currently 8:59, about to be 9 p.m. here in North Smithfield, Rhode Island. It has been great talking with you guys. I'm Brian Costa.
I'm Carter Adams.
I'm Tyler Tucker.
And this has been Down the Wire. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.